This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Well, we're going to take a look at analytics in sports and ask the question, is it healthy? We're also going to take a look at the Lions. Apparently, some national news are really dogging our team, and we're going to see, is it really warranted? And lastly, we're going to play a little game of Tankathon. It's a Fan Report.
So this week is episode number 110 of the Fan Report. It's kind of, we've got a number of topics today, a lot more than we usually do. We don't normally do a full 3-topic show.
We tried to get 110 topics for the 110th show, but we just couldn't come up with enough.
Not during the off season for both the teams we talk about now.
That would have been a really fun way to do a 100th show. All right, 100 questions for a 100th show. See if we can get through them in an hour.
More than a question a minute? I think we could do it.
It would be a lot of yes or no questions.
Yes. Yes, go. What did you want to start off with today? Because, the board is open. There is no more Piston season, no Lions season. The Lions draft's over. Pistons draft, we're still a few weeks away, so obviously we are going to be doing a little Tankathon thing, but beyond that, so the board's wide open. I'll let you take the pick on what we want to start with today.
Let's start off with the broad topic and then narrow it down as we go. So I think let's start with analytics. Okay,
so this is not so much focused on Detroit sports, obviously. Mm-hmm. This is pretty much a broad base and not even just football and basketball. This is all sports in general, especially the big four. And honestly, you can even throw some of the other smaller sports like golf in there. But I'm here to ask the question to you, Andrew. And this is something that's being debated a lot in baseball circles as well as basketball circles, especially with what we see with the playoffs and how they're being played right now. But is the ever so much an insane level of increase in analytics in sports, is it a good thing for sports or is it a bad thing?
I honestly think it's a double-edged sword. And because of this, it does, when it comes to things like player scouting, like when you have league scouts or scouting in league, there are really useful analytic tools that can help you just judge, for example, a bench player's actual value, like find undervalued talent. However, there also is such thing as paralysis by analysis, I believe, and it expands beyond sports. But, like, for example, one thing that I think in the NBA in particular, I think in the analytics sphere has been detrimental in the NBA is the rise of the three-point shot, where basically analytics is dictated that based on percentage of field goals made, and the value of those shots, the 3-point, you are actually better off having your majority of shots be behind the arc. That actually nets you greater value in terms of points based on percentage made versus percentage average field goal made. And it has basically turned the NBA into a 5-out no-win league. Yeah, so that kind of stuff I do think has been detrimental to the league because you no longer have that balance. But at the same time, I do think there is a lot of benefit in terms of in terms of player analysis, finding value in players. But then again, you can get into paralysis by analysis, and you could overlook players that just haven't had the opportunity to even show up on the advanced statistics blip even. So there is such thing as paralysis by analysis. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I'm going to go it hurts more than it helps just based on the three-point argument alone.
You all can't really see me, obviously, but Andrew can, and I've been shaking my head yes pretty much his entire comment there, so my neck is a little tired. No, I 110% agree with you. I think in terms of the double-edged sword, one side of that blade is far sharper than the other. And while, yes, I agree that there are some benefits, and a lot of benefits, I should say, to analytics and finding the right talent, but I also think even in that regard, it's detrimental to some of the talent that's out there as well. Mm-hmm. Because in terms of basketball or baseball, I think I'll be straight up honest with you, and I'm going to make a bold statement here right now, where in terms of baseball, it's a huge struggle right now with analytics to where it is either home run or bust. The deep dive sabermetrics and deep analytics of exit velocity and swing path and all these just ridiculous analytics that weren't in the game until the last probably 10, 15 years has changed the type of player that gets scouted, has changed the type of player that gets recruited, has changed the type of player that plays in our games every single day. And then you add in the analytics for pitchers as well, which has changed the type of pitcher we have. Gone are the days of a guy that is a true 5-pitch pitcher, but has a fastball below 92. Like, gone is that type of pitcher. Now everybody's a fireballer and has maybe 1 or 2 off-speed pitches that they hope to be able to develop to be a solid weapon in their arsenal throughout their career. And in terms of hit and in terms of the offense, it's home run or bust. I think this year has I can't remember the exact figure, but it is an ungodly amount more strikeouts this year than we have ever seen in baseball. Mm-hmm. And the average of balls on hit and play, or not average, but the percentage of balls hit in play is drastically lower than we have ever seen. And I'll tell you right now, it's the death of baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball, and I'm coming from a position where I played the game most of my life. I played until I was about 22, 23 years old. So from the time I basically could run. I know the game well. I've and siren me all you want, whatever, I don't care. I never really went anywhere with the sport, mm-hmm. but I have been a lover of the sport for a long, long, long time. Baseball has become borderline unwatchable some nights. It's boring. And I know it's always been, quote unquote, the boring sport, but I've always been fascinated by the nuances of the game, just the way the game is flowed, and just, I've always loved the game. But the game that is played today is not the same game that I grew up watching, learning, loving, and playing. It's boring. And in some ways it is almost entirely unwatchable. So whereas baseball has a serious problem on its hands where it's being watched less than it ever has, and I know COVID has played a role in that. It's changed the way we watch sports, and fans not being there takes a lot of it out of, people don't want to watch a lot of those games, and you see that through all of the sports. All the sports viewership is down. But baseball is has a serious predicament moving forward to where if they can't figure this out, if they can't find a way to make the game more exciting, and you ask, how do you do that? Well, you find a way to get the ball and play more. That's how you do it. Who cares if a game goes 3 hours? Basketball games go 3 hours. Football games go 3 hours, if not longer. I don't even think baseball is considered the longest sport in terms of total game. I'm pretty sure college football is considered longer. People watch the hell out of that.
I'd actually be interested to see what
I'm pretty sure college football has the longest game, especially the primetime ones. But people watch the hell out of that. So it's not the length of the game that's the problem. It's the fact that there is so little action on the field now that it's painful to watch some days. And don't get me wrong, the no-hitters, yeah, those are cool, fun, and special. Granted, this year with how many we've had, that's becoming less special. Those are exciting, but when it's only every now and then. The bloom kind of comes off the rose a little bit when it's every single week. And, it's just whatever at this point. We've seen 6, and it's the end of May. That's a lot. Yeah. Just to give you an idea. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. So baseball has a serious problem to where they are not connecting to the future generations to get them to like and want to watch and play this sport. They're not. Baseball, at the rate they're going and at the path they're on, they're going to fall the wayside of boxing, where you only watch it when it's a big event.
Are you telling me Moneyball is more of a harbinger of doom than a feel-good story?
Moneyball used analytics in a different way. Mm-hmm. They used the analytic of getting on base, which in a lot of ways requires the ball getting in play. Granted, the walk is obviously a big factor in that as well, but right now the analytics has gone so deep into the type of player you scout and go after, and the way you groom the player in the minor leagues and in the big leagues, to where you change the way that you change the path they swing their bat in order to get them more to get them a better launch angle of the ball off the bat, so they hit more home runs. That's not what Moneyball was talking about, I promise you. Yeah. And the exit velo of the ball off the bat. That's not what Moneyball was referencing and talking about in the analytics they were using. This is something completely different, whole different animal to where at this point, it's not even the GMs running the teams. It's the nerds behind the computers that are running these ball clubs, that are crunching the numbers and running their crazy models.
You've gotten to a point. It's the same way with the NBA too. You've gotten to a point.
I'll get to the NBA in a minute.
You've gotten to a point where numbers have almost replaced like gut instinct. Now there's times when they lie. Like for example, you and I are in agreement that Nikola Jokic is probably your MVP this season, right?
Yeah, but it's because he falls in line with a lot of what sabermetrics want, or not sabermetrics.
Exactly, he's a leader in a lot of like the biggest advanced metrics, like VORP, win shares, plus minus. Like he's the leader in a lot of the major advanced metrics. So there are times when those numbers actually align with what you're seeing as the eye test. But again, there is such thing as an over-reliance on those numbers and being paralyzed by that analysis.
Right, but analytics, and going back to analytics, has changed the type of player that is scouted now that is in the league. I'd argue that it's almost watered it down a little bit to where we're not getting the truly best talent out of these players because we're so overly focused on either the way they pitch the ball or the way they hit the ball. Gone are the days of great defense in my mind. Hell, I watched the Tigers have 5 errors. I'm not saying Tigers are a great team by any measure at all, but that type of game would normally only happen in most years. Like what you'd have a bad game like that one time out of the season. I swear to God, this team does it every single week. The 5-tool player is dead. When a guy can hit a home run, hit a ball a mile, they don't care if he, runs like a 7.2 40. They don't care if he can't field 3 feet to his left or to his right or make a throw across the diamond. They don't give a shit. It doesn't matter because you know what? He hits the bomb. He can hit a big fly. That's all that matters to some of these analytics guys. And it's killing the game. It really is. Because it's not fun to watch anymore.
So do you think analytics has anything to do with the fact that we've had 6 no-hitters in like a month and a half?
100% I think it does. Because when you see, by the nature of the swing that these players are using, breaking it down into its simplest terms, the nature of the swing these players are using, it is so easy for the ball to miss the bat at this point. If you hit the ball, though, it goes a long way. But if you don't, you probably miss it entirely and you strike out a hell of a lot more. Because every single player is doing nothing but swinging for the fences because that's what they're taught to do now. Swing for the fences on every pitch. And what happens when you swing for the fences? Well, it's kind of like when you try to swing for the fences in golf. You miss the ball.
Which kind of relates to, try to be at the three-point line when you have the basketball.
Exactly. Why do you think we've seen more shots from 30 feet out than we ever have? Well, there's your answer. Moving over to basketball in the NBA, I think it's your beginning. And I'm going to say this now because I think the excitement is the shimmer is a little bit gone in terms of the 3-ball. It's becoming more and more detrimental every year to the point where games are becoming less and less fun to watch. Some of these games are not fun to watch. And by that, I mean analytics, like we mentioned, in terms of the 3-point ball, has driven teams to not play any semblance of an offense, not play any semblance of an inside game, and it's either 3-pointer or drive the lane and get to the line. That's it.
Yeah,
There's no mid-range anymore. There's no post-up game anymore. It's outside shot or free throw line. That's it.
Now, let me paint a little picture here just how much the 3-pointer has grown in the NBA. Just looking at from the 2001-2002 seasons today. 2001 seasons today. Sorry. So in 2000-2001, the average number of 3-pointers taken per game was 13.7.
That's probably a number in a first quarter now.
Yeah, jumping a decade. Average number of free throws taken per game, 18 flat.
That's
jumping
2011.
2010-2011. Jumping our decade at 2020-2021, 34.6.
Jesus Christ. That escalated quickly.
Yep.
But, I mean, that's my point. And it's gotten so bad to where you have literally seen an entire breed of player disappear from the game. To where you are no longer an NBA player. If you don't have an outside game as a big man, you're useless in today's league. Like, and in all honesty, that right there is a problem.
Yeah.
We can't have a game that is entirely played at the 3-point line. One thing that separates the NBA from every other league in the world, men or women, especially the European leagues. What's the number one thing that separates the league besides talent level? Obviously, it's the fact that for our entire lifetime, and honestly, even into the 70s, the game's been played above the rim in the NBA. It's more exciting. It's more entertaining. It's faster. But it's not anymore. It's not played above the rim anymore. Sure, you still have a couple of guys that can slam it down like nobody's business. But for the most part, it's not played above the rim. It's played 25 feet away. And that's extremely boring if you ask me. I don't want to watch a three-point shootout every single game. Sure, it's fun to watch a team go back and forth for 5 minutes, nailing three after three after three. But I mean, it's fun in 5-minute stints and not the entire game.
Yeah. But like, to be honest though, like the analytics were right in terms of that value of the 3-point shot.
100% yes.
Because, again, if you look at points per game over the same time span, 94.8 from 2000-2001, the 2010-2011 season, you were at 99.6. You shoot up to 112.1 by 2020-2021.
100% agree. In terms of the offense,
increases
yes.
according with that 3-point shot.
In terms of the offense, yes. It has made it
an
higher
entirely
scoring.
different game.
Right. It's an entirely different game. It's destroyed the center in the power. I think it's had more detriment to the power forward position than any other position on the floor, frankly, because the power forward now is just a wing player.
Yeah.
He's become a glorified taller 3. That's all a 4 is now. And the 5 is just either a rebound gobbler, a hungry hippo down low grabbing boards, or he's, a guy like Nikola Jokic or Anthony Davis, and he could step outside and shoot too. So you're playing 5 out, none in, and there's zero semblance of an inside game. The most exciting area on the floor is in the paint. That's where everything goes in the paint. At least it used to. It doesn't anymore, but a lot more physicality and contact and fun that happens in there. Nobody plays there anymore. Guys like Richard Hamilton wouldn't make it in today's league. Why? Because all he did was shoot the mid-range. His three-point ball wasn't even that great. Mid-range J is gone. It doesn't exist in this league anymore because why not take 5 feet, 5 steps back, get an extra point?
Yeah, like there's no way Karl Malone plays power forward today's NBA.
Hell no. Hell no. That player wouldn't even survive.
And you're talking one of the greatest power forwards of all time.
Exactly. I think Tim Duncan would struggle in today's league. Tim Duncan in his prime with that post-up move that he had, the post-up moves he had with the fundamentals there, he'd struggle in today's league because he's obsolete. And that is arguably the greatest power forward ever.
Now, my question for you is, do you think we're at a point of no return in sports with analytics?
I think it's
Do we know
easier.
too much?
I mean, yes and no. Because you can change the rules of the game to make it harder for analytics to have an impact. And that's where I'm actually going to bring in hockey and football into this argument and say, and you can ask the question, well, why aren't you bringing up hockey and football? Because there's one element to those games that analytics cannot and will never be able to combat and make up for. The games that have more physicality, analytics do not play as much of a role in. Because there is a force stopping you from allowing those analytics to happen. And that's why baseball is the most vulnerable to analytics because there isn't really any physicality in that game. Sure, there's a couple collisions every now and then, but those have nothing to do with the analytics of the sport.
So if we return to the bad boys era of the NBA,
I mean,
in terms of rules,
if you allowed more physicality in the NBA, it would change things. Yes. Baseball, there are rule changes you can make to help analytics. You can lower the pitcher's mound. You can also get rid of the shift, for one. There's ways you can improve.
You can have offensive outfielders that aim to tackle the defensive outfielders before they catch the ball.
Sure, but I don't think that's one of the options. But there are legitimate rule changes you can make in baseball to combat the analytics and make it a little bit more of a game that makes it fun to watch and the ball gets in play more. You can institute an actual strike zone in this league, God forbid. Bring in the robot umpire behind the plate to call balls and strikes and actually have a strike zone. That's a real strike zone and force these guys to swing the bat at pitches they probably wouldn't have swung at nowadays because it's not in their little wheelhouse that they can launch a ball.
Who was it in the NFL that said that they want that they're on board with having like sensors in the footballs?
Oh, there's probably tons of guys that have said that.
Yeah, so one of the big players said, I can't remember who it was, but anyway, continue.
But that's why sports like football and hockey aren't as vulnerable to analytics, and why you don't see as much of an impact in the game as you do in sports like basketball and baseball, is because the amount of physicality in those games combats the analytics. It creates a metric that can't, or it creates a scenario that can't be answered with metrics in those sports. You don't have that scenario in basketball and baseball because the physicality is not there. How you combat it in basketball? You allow a little bit more physicality. You bring back hand checking. That's your step one right there. Allow them to hand check. That sure makes it a little bit more difficult to shoot a three, doesn't it? When you got a guy right up in your face. You allow a little bit more contact in this league, and I promise you, analytics will not play as much of a factor. You will see guys, instead of settling for a three-pointer from 28 feet out, they're going to be driving the lane because they have somebody up in their grill, and they know they can beat them off the bounce.
Yeah, now we aren't actually talking like Bad Boys level.
No, I'm not
contact,
talking bringing back Bad Boys type contact.
I'm talking when a guy is standing in the paint, arms up, not moving, and the the driver draws contact. That's not a foul.
Exactly. This isn't a game like this is a sport that you can touch each other. It's okay. Like there's got to be some level of physicality in this game, and if you allow a little bit, like I said, I'm not saying go back to the Bad Boys rules, but turn back the clock a little bit with contact.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, maybe a decade or two. Just a little bit to allow some type of defense against the analytics monsters that are destroying the sport. Because I will tell you right now, if the NBA continues down the path they are on, basketball will be on the same level as baseball is right now in 10 years if things continue the way they are.
And they also need to break up these Nets like super teams. But that's a discussion for another day.
That's a totally different argument. Yes, that needs to happen as well. But that's my analytics argument. I just, it pains me to watch the sports that in what they've become, because it's not the same game anymore. And sure, you can say that, oh, I'm just an old head or whatever. I'm not that old one. Two, I just miss watching sports for what they really are. Like this baseball is not the same baseball this is not baseball anymore. This is batting practice, but with live pitching.
It's the home run derby.
It is. It literally, but with live pitching. It's the home run derby with live pitching because
Who was it that had 20 runs the other day? What team was that?
Oh, I think it was the Astros or someone that I can't. I caught the game. I couldn't remember who it was though. But don't get me wrong. That type of game happens every year. Don't get me wrong. But either way, you got to do something, because defense doesn't matter in baseball anymore as much. It still matters, but not as much. And base running doesn't matter practically at all anymore. You don't see anybody lay down a bunt that's not a pitcher anymore. I mean, here's a good example of what is wrong with baseball today. I can't remember what team it was, but he's like the number 6 hitter in the lineup. They're being either no hit or 1 hit in the 8th inning, down by a couple of runs. Like they're every bit still in this game. What does the hitter go up to the plate and do? He swings for the fences instead of just trying to get a hit. Dude swings for the fences. Why? God only knows. Probably because that's all he knows how to do. Exactly. But how does that help the team? They're down. I think the score was 6-0, if I was right. So a home run in all reality does them 0 good. Like, dude, just get on base. Just get on base. That's the money ball right there. Yeah. Just get on base. Well, that's not the case anymore because nobody gives a shit about it if you hit a single. It's home run or bust. And that's the problem. So let's go ahead and move on.
All right. Moving on our local teams. Let's talk NFL offenses. So CBS Sports put out a tiered ranking of NFL offenses. And they basically ranked the offenses in all 32 offenses into 5 tiers. Tier 1 being the best, Tier 5 being the worst. Your Tier 1 was obviously your Chiefs, Buccaneers, Packers. That was the entirety of Tier 1. Your Tier 2 was teams like the Cowboys, the Bills, the Browns.
Does the Packers have an asterisk next to it?
They should. The Ravens, among other teams, are in Tier 2. The Ravens are in
Tier 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lamar Jackson by himself is like instant offense.
So. See, I disagree. I think Lamar Jackson's what holds them back.
And
but
J.K. Dobbins in the backfield.
Okay, I think Lamar Jackson's what holds them back. Yeah. He is not a good passer. He is a bad thrower of the ball. Can't eat brats out of a barn.
Tier 3, although I think they should be ranked a little bit higher, you have your Tennessee Titans.
You mean to tell me you put the Ravens in tier 2, but the Titans in tier 3?
I didn't. CBS did.
We're talking about a team that had a, 1,400-yard receiver and a 2,000-yard running back in tier 3? Who, just, humor me. Who created this list?
I don't know the author. This was just shared by CBS Sports.
Do better.
Seahawks.
Do better.
Seahawks are in tier 3. The Cardinals are in tier 3.
Disagree with Cardinals as well, but continue.
Vikings, Colts, Niners, Washington, all in tier 3.
How are you in the hell? Are you going to put the Titans and the Washington football team on the same damn tier?
Oh, I should mention, I forgot to read off the rest of tier 2. The Saints, the Chargers,
The Saints with who throwing the ball?
I don't know.
Sure, I get Kamara, but Jameis Winston is going to throw the ball?
I don't agree with the Saints being above the Titans. I don't agree with the Falcons, sans Julio being above the Titans.
I don't agree with the Ravens being above the Titans. I don't think the Ravens should be in that group at all. They should be tier 3, but anyways, continue.
All right, tier 4. You had the Eagles, Raiders, Patriots, Steelers, Jags, Panthers, Bengals.
Okay.
Fair. Tier 5. And as you probably guessed by now, this is the tier the Lions are in.
As long as this is the final tier, yes, I figured.
Broncos, Dolphins, New York Giants, Houston Texans, New York Jets, Chicago Bears, and last and least, the Detroit Lions. Can you make an argument for the Detroit Lions being above anyone else in tier 5?
In tier 5.
So
Yes.
I'm talking the Bears, the Jets, the Texans, the Giants, the Dolphins, the Broncos.
Yes, you can. You can make an argument over the Broncos. The Broncos' offense is putrid. You can make an argument over the Jets. The Jets' offense is putrid.
They're really basing it entirely on a rookie quarterback right now.
In Zach Wilson, who is also an unproven rookie quarterback to the extreme. You can say that they are a better offense than
the Giants, who they have besides Saquon Barkley. Oh, Evan Ingram.
The Giants, I'll agree with you there. You can argue that they have a better offense than the Bears, although the Bears looked a lot better at the end of the year when David Montgomery decided to actually play.
I'm going to be honest with you, the Bears are actually the one that I have the most trouble making the argument.
Fair. That's fine. I have no issues with that. I'm just hinging it on, that's expecting Justin Fields to be a good quarterback in the NFL.
That's also true.
To do something that no Ohio State quarterback has ever done.
I think the Bears and the Dolphins, the Dolphins offense was not great last year, but I think the Bears and the Dolphins are probably your two best bets in tier 5 in terms of the best two offenses.
Yes.
If you ask me.
To say the Lions should be in tier 5, yes, I agree with it.
I agree
to say
too.
that they are the the worst offense in the league, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can see the argument for it. Because in all reality, the only sure thing we have
I have a name, by the way. Sorry.
Okay.
Of who put this together. It's Jared Dubin.
Never heard of him.
Me neither. Continue.
The only argument for the Lions having a good offense this year, like the only legitimate group the Lions have this year, is their O-line on the offensive side of the ball.
Tight end.
One tight end.
One tight end.
One tight end.
One tight end.
And at running back...
What, does Darren Fells not count?
No. And at running back, you have a guy who is showing promise. I'm not going to say he's a great running back or even a good running back just yet. He's showing a lot of promise, though. I like him a lot. I think DeAndre Swift will have... I will say this now. I fully expect, and I think DeAndre Swift will have a big year this year, and I'm saying he will cross 1,000 rushing yards. So before you say I'm a hater of the man, I'm throwing that out now, and I'm stamping it.
So you would say he's a top 32 running back this year, then?
Yes.
All right, we'll get it.
100%. And that can be next. But he's not entirely proven yet, so I kind of see where people would go against him. Plus, he was hurt a little bit last year. He's got to prove he can stay healthy.
But in general, like our running back core, if
it's not
healthy,
terrible
with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, it's
not
nice.
terrible. I'll take the Bears backs.
No, I agree.
I think James Robinson's a better playmaker than both those guys from the Jags.
Well, they're not in tier 5. Are we still talking tier 5?
Oh, I thought they were in tier 5. My bad.
Nope. Jags are tier 4.
That group is going up against Denver's group's a little bit interesting because Melvin Gordon isn't bad, and they did just draft a rookie. Saquon's a playmaker. Big time. I would take Saquon.
I think what the Lions are getting hit on the most here is their wide receiving
and quarterback.
Quarterback.
Because just going off of last year and the year before, Jared Goff is dog shit.
Well, let's play a little game. Would you rather have Jared Goff or Drew Lock?
I'd rather punch myself in the stomach or punch myself in the face. I mean, okay, I think Jared Goff, again, I will say I think Jared Goff can have a good season. I'm hoping he can. It was just a situation where Sean McVay gave up on him. I think Jared Goff can be a good quarterback in this league in the right scenario. Throwing that out there now.
I hope so.
I do too. But I actually do think he can be, because that Pro Bowl year I don't think was just a fluke. I would take Jared Goff. Throwing that out now. I'd take Jared Goff.
Yeah, and assuming Tyrod Taylor is the starter for the Texans, I think I'd take Jared Goff. And assuming...
Now, are we assuming that Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback there?
Are we saying that Deshaun Watson's going to play?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Because nothing's been announced as of yet. He just hasn't reported the OTAs.
Yeah, I don't see an avenue where it actually
I don't
happens.
either, from anywhere, frankly.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that by putting them at, what, they're at 31?
29.
29. I'm assuming that they're presuming that Deshaun Watson's not playing as well.
Yeah.
So,
and the only other team where I would say their quarterback situation's worse is the Giants with Daniel Jones. I think I'd rather have Goff. There could be an argument there's an argument to be made that Daniel Jones in a different situation could be better. There's an argument to be made there.
I'm not going to agree with you on that one, because Daniel Jones has shown promise, but he's also looked like he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing back there. So I don't even know. But then again, so did Jared Goff. Like, I'm trying to be as non-biased as possible here. Like, I'm really trying hard.
I'm just saying we should be like
me being negative.
I'm just saying we should be like 30 or 29, not 32.
Fine with that. I am good with that, because frankly, the Texans will be a dumpster fire this year, and the Jets will probably be a dumpster fire this year, and the Giants, well, they actually may not be, but the Broncos probably a dumpster fire this year. Like, let's be real, unless they get Aaron Rodgers. But let's be real, the Lions do not have the worst offense in the league. They're putting far too much weight on the fact that we do not have a legitimate number one receiver on this team, and the quarterback has played a couple of bad years for a coach who, frankly, seemed to have given up on him.
Yeah. Now let's talk about another ranking, and
I don't think he deserved to be given up on, because you got to remember, this dude went to a Pro Bowl for a reason.
And we're putting him in a similar situation with a similarly strong offensive line. Pro Football Focus ranked the top 32 running backs entering the 2021 NFL season. DeAndre Swift is not on this list.
Garbage.
However, there were rookies. There were rookies on this list, like Travis Etienne and Javonte Williams and Najee Harris.
I can get on board with Najee Harris and maybe Javonte Williams. I cannot get on board with Travis Etienne. I'm sorry. Like,
especially considering I don't even think he's going to have the lion's share of the carries in that backfield.
I frankly don't think he's going to have many carries at all in that backfield, because he's not even playing running back in rookie minicamp. He's out wide at wide receiver. Urban Meyer should have came out and said, at worst, we have a running back with wide receiver capabilities if this doesn't work. How can you argue that is a better option than DeAndre Swift? I'm sorry, that do better. You just got to do better than that. Did they just forget about DeAndre Swift? Like, did they forget about him? That's the only logical reasoning I have here.
Yeah, like, so guys that, like, for example, just barely making it, but still making the cut above DeAndre Swift. You have guys like Kenyon Drake and Mark Ingram who struggled immensely last year.
Kenyon Drake was not fun to watch last year, but he did have a couple of good games. A couple.
And, like, now Mark Ingram's on the Texans, but since one of the Texans have ever had a good run game, have they
Foster,
ever supported?
You take that back.
Okay, but that was like a decade ago.
And Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller was average.
He had 2,000-yard seasons. Multiple 1,000-yard seasons. Not like 2,000, like 2 times 1,000.
Kenyon Drake is now
that
going to be on the Raiders. That may not even be true.
He might have only had one.
Kenyon Drake is going to be on the Raiders backing up Josh Jacobs. So how you can even put him in this list is beyond me.
He had 2,000-yard. Oh, sorry. One of them was with Miami, so he had 1,000-yard season with Houston.
Yeah, so Kenyon Drake on the Raiders backing up Josh Jacobs. Don't know how you can put him on this list.
No.
So
he
just
didn't even earn it last year, frankly.
Yeah, so just those two alone, I'm like, you at least have to put DeAndre Swift above those two. Like next up after that is Chase Edmonds, James White, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Nyheim
James White,
Hines.
I do not agree with at all. At all. Again, pass catcher, does not run the ball, and really wasn't that good last year at all.
And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire wasn't that good last year, but you could still argue the talent is there. They just don't really focus on the run.
No, I will not argue that for Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Nyheim Hines.
Until I see him getting carries, then I'll say he's better than DeAndre Swift. We're talking about a guy who actually gets touches on his team, not a guy who touches the ball 5 times a game.
Nyheim Hines is another backup, or you can just say the receiving complement to Jonathan Taylor.
Not a running back. He's a pass-catching back. And again, not a guy that gets a ton of touches. We're talking about a running back that gets probably 15, 20 touches a game versus a guy who gets 5 to 10.
Yeah. The first guys I would start conceding would be now getting to 26-25, J.K. Dobbins, Ronald Jones. Like, all right, now we can
Fine, you can have
start
those.
talking.
But beyond that, no.
But no, then it goes back to like Devin Singletary at 22. Like
he was terrible last year.
Exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make
like
sense.
So much so, Zach Moss had better games than him half the year.
Yeah.
How can you argue a guy like Devin Singletary? At least we're talking about a running back here that gets Gary's, but still.
I'll tell you what they said exactly. Devin Singletary has been a missed tackle forcing machine dating back to his college career. He has 68 broken tackles on 308 carries to start 2019, as well as another 19 receptions out of the backfield. So basically, they're basing it solely on his broken tackles / missed tackles.
You know how I know this list is bullshit? Because they had to bring up the dude's college career. He ain't a rookie. Anytime you got to bring up a dude's college career after he's played a year or two in this league, that's how you know he isn't showing up yet. So, yeah, no, Devin Singletary, not one of the top 32 backs in the game in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, okay. He's better than some of the guys behind him. So maybe he's top 32, but he ain't 26 or 25, wherever they got him. 22, and he ain't better than DeAndre Swift. Like J.K. Dobbins, sure, I'll put him up there. That's one that I'll agree with. But some of the rest of those, yikes, no way. DeAndre Swift absolutely should be higher. Should be on this list, 1, and 2 should not even be in the bottom 3.
So yeah, the Lions getting heavily slighted in national rankings lately. So just wanted to bring that up on the show.
I mean, can't say I'm surprised.
And then if you guys were wondering, for listeners, the top 5 in this list is number 5, Alvin Kamara, 4, Nick Chubb, 3, Christian McCaffrey, 2, Dalvin Cook, and 1, Derrick Henry.
Still don't know how you don't put Saquon in there, but hey, whatever.
Yeah. Saquon Aaron Jones just missed the cut.
Like, if you're gonna say, I see, it's almost impossible to base off of what they did, to figure out what they used to base this list off of, So you can't say they did it off last year if you got guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire on there who were terrible and albeit for the most part a bust last year, outside of one game, and put him in the top 32. Or Devin Singletary, who was hurt most of last year, and still give them props, but not have Saquon be a top 5 back. Like, it does not compute. I'm sorry.
Does not compute. All right, so we're going to close it out with what's going to be a recurring segment until the lottery happens. And that's going to be our Tankathon segment. So basically, we're going to take a spin at the Tankathon Draft Lottery Simulator. We'll see where the Pistons land, and we will just do a mock up to the Pistons, basically, and see what we think the Pistons will do. So for those of you that don't know, Pistons have they're the second lowest team in the lottery. They're one of 3 teams with the best odds at landing any of the top 4 picks.
Just out of curiosity, looking at this, what does the lock symbol mean next to the team name? Currently not traded because it is protected. Got it. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
So Minnesota's pick, unless they get 1, 2, or 3, is Golden State's.
Yep.
And Chicago goes to Orlando.
And Houston, if they drop out of the top 4, if they don't land one of those top 4 picks through the lottery, they lose their pick.
Which I don't think they can do. I think they're guaranteed a top 4 pick.
No, the lowest they go is 5. So the
That's
lottery,
they can drop 4 spots.
The lottery is for the top 4 pick.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Where do the
Fingers
Pistons
crossed.
land?
Oh, Lord.
Oh,
Number
God,
5.
this is a bad scenario. Well, Minnesota keeps their pick here.
Yep.
So does
Minnesota
Houston.
jumps up 5 spots, number 1.
Can we re-roll?
I think it's safe to say they take Cade Cunningham. That's going to be one hell of a backcourt with Cade Cunningham and Anthony Edwards.
Yes, it will be. Can we re-roll?
What do they do with D'Lo at that point?
Trade him.
Houston at number 2. They could really. I don't think they go. Considering they have Christian Wood, I don't think they go with Mobley.
No, I think you're looking at Jalen Green or Jalen
I think it's
Suggs
Jalen
there.
Green here.
Jalen Green there, sure.
Yeah, Orlando.
They can go anywhere.
I think you can make a solid argument for Mobley here. I think that's best player available, and I think they are a team that goes best player available. So having Mobley, I would say, is the pick. Now, here's the interesting thing, because I would say for Cleveland at number 4, I would say best player available is Jalen Suggs. However, do they want to add a third high-level point guard to their already?
Probably not. However, can't Jalen Suggs play a little bit off ball? And
No,
maybe
he can play the 1-on-2, but they already have Garland and Sexton.
But here's the argument for Cleveland taking Jalen Suggs. It is very openly known that the team is a little bit frustrated with the way Colin Sexton plays the one.
That is very true.
So maybe bringing in a guy who is a little bit more willing to pass the ball and Jalen Suggs to play the 1 while Sexton moves to the 2, and then you bring Garland off the bench.
I'm not going to argue it.
There you can make an argument for Jalen Suggs at the 4th spot. However,
because I think for like any other team here, Suggs is the pick. So like I can't based on value alone.
I will say this though, I don't think that's the route Cleveland would go because I don't think they're that smart, and I think they're scared to piss off Colin Sexton. I think they would go with the foreign prospect, frankly.
Who's the foreign prospect?
Oh, sorry, not the foreign prospect. The number 5 pick, Kuzmingas.
Jonathan Kuminga?
Kuminga, yeah. Jesus. Kuzmingas. Kuminga.
That'd be interesting. I would hope they do that, and then I would take then I would take Suggs at 5. But I'm going to say that my guess would be Cleveland goes Suggs here. I think you kind of convinced me on the whole Sexton thing.
If I were their GM, I'd say yes. But I don't think... I think they're scared to piss off Colin Sexton. So I don't think they would go Suggs. I think they would go Kuminga. I really do.
So we'll say this. If they go Kuminga, I think the obvious pick for Detroit is Suggs. If they go Suggs, let's have fun. If they go Suggs, are you going Kuminga if you're Detroit?
Oh, man. I hate to say it, but this is a guy that's been mocked to the Pistons a lot. Like a lot, because they do seem to fall into that 5 spot pretty often for some reason.
That's our highest odds. It's like a 5.
Yeah.
But
here's a mock here's an interesting mock. Yahoo Sports has the Rockets at number 1, taking Jalen Green, not Cade Cunningham.
Hot take. That's the first time I've seen that happen.
Same.
So I'll tell you from my perspective, even though like timeline wise with the project, Kuminga kind of lines up. I don't want another project on the team, and I need high level. Like I think this team needs a scoring injection. We need some high level scoring in this offense, and I don't think
Davion Mitchell.
So my 3 favorite guys right now, outside of that top 5, are James Bouknight, Davion Mitchell, and Trey Mann. I think I go Bouknight here.
Okay.
I think I go for the
guy like
scoring
Moses
infusion.
Moody from Orlando?
We have Moses Moody is kind of redundant with what we have on this roster. I think we need more of a shot creator rather than just a guy that is just a pure just 3-point shooter, defensive guy. Like we have those guys on our roster. I think that's why I think Bouknight is more of a pressing need. I actually think he has the higher ceiling.
Does Corey Kispert from Gonzaga tickle your fancy at all?
I almost value him the same way I value Moody, to be honest with you.
He is a big-time three-point shooter. He is.
I do like Davion Mitchell, and I agree with a lot of the Donovan Mitchell comps. I just don't see the defensive potential in the NBA translating because of and it's really solely he plays with the same defensive intensity Donovan Mitchell plays with.
Is he related? Are they related?
No, somehow. Okay. They were the same number, same play style. They have basically the same name. They're same size. Like, it's weird. But the thing is that I think the wingspan is going to limit Davion Mitchell's defensive potential in a way that didn't limit Donovan Mitchell's, because they're both, I think, like 6'1". So Donovan Mitchell's wingspan it actually helps a lot with him actually being able to guard the one and the two. With Davion Mitchell, he's going to be fairly limited, I feel like, on the type of players he can guard.
What is his wingspan?
I think it's like 6'4". It's barely taller. It's barely longer or wider than he is tall.
I'll have to find it somewhere else.
But
does it change your mind at all by this quote from an NBA scout?
Yeah, what's up?
His upside in the league is definitely a Donovan Mitchell type player who plays
Agreed.
way better defense.
I don't see it. Like,
Now, this is coming from an NBA scout, so this isn't just.
I'm not
going to
pretend I'm not going to pretend I know more about than an NBA scout. They could very well be right. I'm just saying on my end, they're going to have to tell me what they're seeing because I don't exactly like. I see it in college. Like, I'm like, this guy can defend. Maybe I'm getting too hung up about how much a player's wingspan impacts your defensive potential, but maybe this is paralysis by analysis, like we referred to in earlier in the show. But that's just my 2 cents. Again, I love Davion Mitchell. I would not be mad at a Davion Mitchell pick by Detroit. I just think, for me, I think Bouknight's if you can even move back and give Oklahoma City the 5 pick and you take 6, get some assets. 'Cause I don't think Oklahoma City takes Bouknight, and then you take him at 6. I'd even love that even more. But so you like Kuminga here at 5 is what you're saying?
No,
like
I probably would go Davion Mitchell,
which I would not be mad at. I'd be all on board with Davion Mitchell. All right, do you think we are going to land in the top 4 in one of these lotteries?
If we don't, I'll be pissed.
I hate these lottery odds. I really do. It's so annoying.
The way the NBA does the lottery is terrible.
It's stupid.
Let's do one more, just for the fun of it. Let's do one more.
Oh, okay. We can do one more.
We got time.
All right. In this one, Orlando gets number 1.
And
Cleveland
Minnesota moves
jumps up to number 3, and then we get number 3.
Moves to 5. Wow. Ouch. So they lose that pick.
Houston loses the pick.
Ouch. Minnesota does as well.
Really, my target, like, this is how I think of the draft. Obviously, we all want to be number 1.
Yeah.
I put 2 and 3 in the next tier. I'll be insanely happy at 2 or 3.
100% agree.
Like, I will still be cheering and screaming at my screen if we land 2 or 3.
100%
4,
agree.
I'll still be ecstatic because I really like Jalen Suggs. I'll also be really happy at 4. I'll start getting bummed if 5 or 6, but
if we land at 5, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I won't be like devastated because I know there's still guys I like, but I really wanted one of those top 4 guys. Is basically how I view it. But
I'm not even going to be as high on 5 or 6. I think if we're not top 4, this rebuild gets pushed back another year.
I wouldn't. Yeah, a year I think is safe to say. I gets pushed back another year because I don't think anyone.
I think if you don't land in the top 4 of this draft, you're a loser. Like
you're talking about landing franchise-changing caliber talent versus just landing really good players,
or likely potential role players. Frankly, I mean, sure, there's guys that get picked in the teens that end up being stars, but we haven't found them anytime recently.
Hey, hopefully Sadiq.
Yeah.
All right,
and
so Orlando goes Cade. I think Cleveland goes Mobley at 2.
Really? You don't think they go Jalen Green there?
No, I think they go Mobley, and I think Detroit lands Jalen Green at 3 in this scenario.
Oh God, that's my wet dream.
Oh yeah.
Jalen Green is slowly becoming not even slowly. He has become my number 2 prospect in this draft, without a doubt.
No, I agree. It's not like I can say definitively he's going to be a better player than Mobley because they're 2 unique players, 2 very different players. It's just for one, in terms of fit, I give him the slight edge over Mobley on our roster. Although I think Mobley fits just fine with Isaiah Stewart.
I do as well. Don't get me wrong. I think Mobley alongside Isaiah Stewart, because we did see the Pistons try out Isaiah Stewart a lot at the 4 to some success. So I don't see, and I also think Mobley's got the range to where he can also play the 4 if Stewart doesn't end up being comfortable there. So I think you can play the 2 together without a problem and have kind of a dynamic duo at the 4 and the 5 with guys that are good inside and out and play some defense as well. But Jalen Green, still with the abilities that he has, you're looking at a potential superstar there. Like, if I had to pick one guy I think legitimately has a shot to be a superstar in this draft, it's Jalen Green. Cade Cunningham, even I have my doubts about him. Granted, I have my doubts about Jalen Green as well, but it's the 2 guys I would take to be superstars in this league from this draft are Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham. My third would be Evan Mobley.
Yeah, I can't argue that. Because you could definitely say that Evan Mobley has a lower floor than Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham. Like, there is that little bit of bust potential just because of his weight. He's gonna need to put on some weight to be effective.
He definitely needs to put on some weight.
So yeah, that's our Tankathon segment. We're gonna do one of these every week to the lottery. I think we have a little less than a month to the lottery. So
I like it.
This will be how we handle our draft talk pre-actual draft talk.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else to add before we close out?
No.
Okay, well, that's going to call for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. And follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. We will catch you guys next week. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast as always. And Andrew, thank you for joining me. If you have anything else to add to any of the conversations we've had today, or if you want to join us in bitching about NFL writers and how they slight the Lions, have fun.
And if you have any insight into the NBA's rigging process and can just put in a good word to rig it for the
Can
Pistons.
we freeze a ping pong ball? Or put a magnet in it so that it comes down faster than the rest?
There you go.
Just something we can do. But anyways, guys, thank you again. We will catch you next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one. Enjoy your week and enjoy your holiday weekend. Get outdoors. It's supposed to be real nice weather this weekend. Friday's going to suck, but
finally,
the other days are going to be real nice. So enjoy.
Have a great Memorial Day.
And have a good weekend. Happy Memorial Day to all of you guys out there. Have a good one. Peace out.